My dad, a widower, married Jane, a widow, when I, 18 male, was 8. Jane had a daughter Lucy who was 10 weeks younger than me. Because we were so close in age, my dad and Jane found it fun to call us twins and to jokingly talk about us as though we were a pair. Lucy and I got along okay at first, but she always had anxiety and mental health issues and latched on to me. She confessed to me a few times that she liked being called my twin because it meant we would always be together and I would always have to act like a big brother to her. I used to find how she talked really weird. I tried not to let it come between us, but when we were 12, she told me to forget my mom existed because it meant a bigger family for her. I started to pull away from her. The reason she said it, she felt I should appreciate that having a bigger family with a sibling made her feel more secure. Her words annoyed me and I lost all interest in caring about her then. Over the years, I told Dad and Jane that their calling us twins bothered me. They brushed it off. Sometimes Jane would act annoyed, and maybe she was offended that it bothered me so much. It made me feel trapped. I said this in family therapy. We all did, and they were unhappy that I was ignoring Lucy by then and refusing to spend time with her as siblings or as friends. Family therapy was crappy. I began counting down the days to graduation, and 4 years later, on the day of my graduation, I moved out of state with my maternal grandmom and granddad for the summer. I also changed my college plans without telling my dad, and I'll be going to community college and working. Lucy and I were meant to be going to the same college. She's moving out soon. She'll be living on campus. Lucy wanted to come to stay with me for a while before and for me to help her adjust to life away from home. Dad asked me about it when I didn't reply to Lucy. I told him my grandparents wouldn't let her live here and I didn't want to leave. We argued over it. I revealed I'd changed my college plans. He brought up the twin thing and sacrificed Lucy's college experience. I told him I was not a twin, never was a twin, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice my college experience for her. I told him I didn't care if this meant she won't be able to make it through college. I am not her keeper, I'm not her friend, and I'm not going to take responsibility for her. My dad and Jane are angry. Lucy sent me a long text asking why I pulled away from her and why I won't be the big brother she needs. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, you aren't her emotional support human. That situation seems like a nightmare for actual twins. I can't imagine how weird and annoying that would be for a regular sibling, let alone a step-sibling. Your parents really ruined it for both of you. I hope in the future Lucy will understand and try to respect your boundaries, because there's no hope for a sibling relationship without that realization on Lucy's end. Emotion support human. Brilliant. You don't fix anxiety by putting a band-aid on it. She needs to be able to function on her own. Your dad and stepmom aren't going to live forever and you can't be your stepsister's keeper 100% of the time through adulthood. Given her age, Lucy needs to stand on her own 2 feet and not rely on you as a crutch. Good grief, your father and stepmother are so delusional. Tell father he needs to go to therapy with his new family and to leave you alone. This is like the makings of a horror film. If I were you, I would have stopped talking to her the moment she told me I should forget my mom. Honestly, I wouldn't blame you if you decided to go no contact with your dad and his wife and daughter. Well, I have empathy for Lucy. She has crippling anxiety. She should have received intense individual therapy for it rather than having OP have to deal with it. Something is causing that anxiety, and she deserves to have it dealt with so she can live a normal, independent life. Great, you have your grandparents backing you up. Good luck with college. I hope you get your freedom and happiness away from this toxic mess. I've 2 boys with my ex-wife and a boy and girl with my wife, in that order. The boys primarily live with their mom. I want all my assets to be divided equally among all 4 of my children. I feel a duty towards all of them equally. However, my wife feels our mutual kids should get more % because my ex-wife has done quite nicely for herself and the boys are set for life. My wife and I aren't close to poor, but definitely not at the level of my ex-wife, who's always been really good with money. Neither of us pays child support to the other because although they live with her most of the time, she does make a lot more money. I've always felt guilty that, in effect, she's contributed the most to bringing up the boys, both labour and money, while I saw them a couple of times a year at most. My wife is a stay-at-home mom and worked part-time for a while when the kids were about 6 or 7, then decided she didn't want to go to work anymore. In essence, all the cash in our household comes from me, so we're not exactly rich like the boys' mom. Most of the money is under my name only, except for the house and the joint bank account for household expenses. I've arranged for my share to go evenly to 4 parties, and my wife's share to go to the mutual kids only. I'll not receive anything if she passes first and vice versa. My wife thinks I'm converting her household labour to cash and giving it to my ex-wife, which makes no sense to me. While I value her contributions to everything, she did benefit from living without a job for so long and continues to do so. I don't mind providing for her, so it felt unfair to say I was exploiting her, and my ex-wife is not receiving any money from me whatsoever. Only my sons are. My wife thinks I shouldn't leave anything to the boys because they already receive emotional heirlooms from my mother, who sadly passed on before our kids were born. They don't have too much monetary value as they shouldn't be sold anyway. Extra info. I don't see why my son and daughter should get extra. If I'd sent child support to the boy's mom, I wouldn't feel so bad. My ex-wife did more for my kids with her than my wife did for our mutual kids because I was a very involved parent. I'm not leaving any inheritance to my wife. Investments and savings that I've made, etc., go to the kids only. If I pass on too early, she'll have to support herself. So she wants to shortchange your other kids because your ex made good financial decisions? Not the idiot. Your children are all equal. You're different mothers or not, so you're right to want to treat them equally. The issue is that he's leaving almost all his assets to his children and almost nothing to his wife. If he dies significantly earlier than she does, she'll be screwed without even a house to live in. Then their mutual kids will be stuck trying to figure out how to support their mother when their father left her with nothing, especially as the cost of housing goes up. If he wants to leave some to his children with his ex, they should get 50% and his wife should get 50%, and then joint kids inherit from her when she passes. She could work though, she just doesn't want to. She feels like kids are old enough to work during the school day. If she wants her kids to be on equal footing with your other kids, then maybe she should do what your ex-wife did and provide for her family financially. If she doesn't want to work, then she should live with the consequences of her decision. She does work, she just doesn't get paid for it. You are the idiot for leaving your wife nothing. The house and bank accounts are in your name. If your assets are evenly divided between the children, the house will probably be sold and the money divided. Where will your wife and two youngest live? Yeah, so now he's just like, I don't care if you're homeless when I die. I feel guilty for not being there for two of my kids and think the money they don't need will make up for my lack of presence in their lives. He's barely been a part of his first kids' lives. They don't need his money and he can't turn back the clock now. The need should be more important than his guilt. My entire family was invited to my parents' home for dinner. That included me, 38 male, my wife Amy, 35, our two sons, preteen and a little younger, my sister Charlotte, 29, her wife Hannah, 32, and their son, kindergartner. My mom, 60, has horrible arthritis in her knees. I work as a nurse and I've heard a lot about a specific supplement that apparently helps people with arthritis a lot, so I bought that for my mom to help her a bit. Hannah is a doctor. She heard Mom and I talking about these pills. She just looked at the ingredients and said none of these were backed by scientific evidence. She suggested it would just be a waste of money in the long run, as effective as a placebo at best. She has a complex sense of superiority and thinks she knows everything there is to know. Charlotte usually sides with her, so there's no problem normally. This time I said no. I've heard and seen people take this and it helps them. She said that still doesn't mean there's scientific evidence behind it. She said it could also damage Mom's liver if taken too much. I told her to please not give any unsolicited advice and let the rest of us live life how we want. Not everything has to be evidence-based all the time. It's just a supplement. She got a bit upset and ignored me the entire night. Was what I said an idiot move? OP, it sounds like you have a complex sense of inferiority. Not everything has to be evidence-based all the time. With medicine and meds, I think you do want evidence-based stuff. Good Lord. Your sister-in-law is trying to save your mom from potential liver damage and taking unprescribed supplements which can interfere with prescription meds and OTC meds. Why would you shut down a well-meaning doctor and family member giving safe advice in such a rude manner? Why should only your opinion count? You are the idiot. Let's see. You bring the latest snake oil to your mother. A doctor looks at the ingredients and identifies them as quackery with potentially damaging ingredients. You tell her to butt out because you know better. Yes, you are the idiot. Why don't you bring your mother something from homeopathy? It's just as effective, but at least it's harmless. You're spot on. You have to be very careful with supplements when you're on medications. Even safe and harmless things can cause damages when taken with certain meds. Heck, so can some foods. Get off your high horse. Unlike you, Hannah knows what she's talking about. My husband and I have a daughter who is kindergarten age named Everly. When we were expecting, my husband was in love with the name Evelyn, but the name was a hard no for me. It was never my favourite name, but I had one particularly difficult child in my class with the name a few years ago, and it was forever ruined for me. My husband knew this, so we compromised with Everly, which is more my taste anyway. No negative association, but is still close to Evelyn. My husband never lost his love for the name Evelyn, however. My sister gave birth to her first daughter, Evelyn, a month ago. My husband commented on how much he loved the name and how it was his favourite. My sister was surprised and asked him about it. He said Evelyn didn't work for me and we compromised. My sister was bothered by my not liking Evelyn enough to use it, and she asked me about it. I told her the name simply didn't work for me, but it did for her, and that was great. She told me she wanted to know why, what was so bad about the name. She said Evelyn was a lovely classic name that's coming back into fashion hard. I told her I was aware, but I loved my daughter's name, and she loved her daughter's name, so everything was good. She wouldn't let the topic go, so on Saturday, I finally gave in and told her that a former student of mine made the name unusable for me because I associated the name with her so much. I'd prefer not to have a strong negative association with my child's name. She tried to argue that it would have been a good association to use it for my daughter. I responded that the name was ruined for me even if I'd loved it before, but I would likely lose that association eventually because of my niece, and could we please leave it alone? My sister wasn't happy about it, and she told me I'd just insulted my own niece's name and that I made it very clear I despised it and would forever think of my niece as associated with a child I didn't like teaching. My brother-in-law, sister's husband, confirms that she's still angry and is expecting an apology from me to assure her that I don't hate the name. Am I the idiot? Oh my God, your sister victimized herself. You handled it well by saying that the name didn't work for you and you told her everything was good. And then she pressed you for an answer and got one she didn't like. She did this to herself, I think. And like you said, just because that name isn't for you doesn't mean it won't take on a positive association for you from now on. And on a side note, who chooses a name that's so incredibly close to the name of her sister's child anyway? People press for details thinking it would be amazing to get to know other secrets and then act hurt, victimizing themselves when they find out the details aren't following their wild assumptions. Abhor these people. OP, not the idiot. There's no need to apologize and be the bigger person. Tell brother-in-law to focus on his baby and wife, and if they send any flying monkeys, block them straight away. Yeah, your sister should occupy herself with her new baby and your brother-in-law can pound sand and change diapers. Honestly, your husband started this by being petty, telling your sister the name Everly came out of a compromise because you didn't like Evelyn. Finally, someone places some of the blame on the husband. He threw her under the bus. What a salty man. He clearly either still resents OP for having to compromise on the name Evelyn, or this is something he does all the time and just gives out information that isn't his to give out. Either way, he sucks. This happened a month ago. After I, 22 female, finished moving into my first apartment, I invited my family over. My parents, siblings, 3 of them, and their partners, 2 of those. Everyone knows I don't eat meat. I try my best not to be difficult about it and often bring my own meals to family gatherings. Anyways, the menu was, as a starter, bruschetta as a main, pasta alla norma with garlic bread and salad on the side, and tiramisu as dessert. I thought this covered all bases, had enough variety, and people seemed to enjoy it. No one went home hungry. But my dad told me that if he knew I wouldn't be serving meat, he wouldn't have come. He made some snarky remarks too, especially about the salad, rabbit food, this is what real food eats, etc. And my brother called me to let me know his girlfriend agrees with my dad and would want real food next time if I'm ever hosting again. Honestly, I don't really want to host again. I spent quite a lot of money and time on the dinner and it's frustrating when people try to tear it down. But it's generally polite to let people know when a social gathering doesn't meet expectations. Should I have let people know beforehand? Not the idiot, the dinner sounds delicious. And your father and brother's girlfriend sound like bad guests. I eat meat, but I don't expect it at every meal. Interestingly, you have to provide your own meals when you go to their dinner, but your family expects you to accommodate their desire to have meat at your place. How often do you have to make yourself smaller or do without because they care more about themselves than you? Dad told me that he wouldn't have come if he knew I wouldn't be serving meat. Did he make a fuss like a little kid because he realised he ordered something without meat? The audacity! LMAO. Well, now you know your family wasn't coming to spend time with you, but just to get free food. And I bet those people told you that a polite guest doesn't complain about the host to her face, right? Take out the vegetarian meat-eating situation. You invited guests, planned a menu, cooked the food and served them a nice dinner. Your family is just rude. Instead of not hosting them, let them know that you won't be serving meat when hosting. If they want meat so badly, they can do as you do when they're hosting and come with their own meals. Or don't come at all if they're going to whine that salad is food for real food. They can cook themselves at home.